welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm Everett Weber Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to the Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis, or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed, 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or a comment, you can perhaps get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down. So that when you're well organized and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem not within our broadcast standards. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us. You can also follow us on YouTube channel. You go to YouTube, you click subscribe, you click on Vaughan Radio, and you have the video streaming live. And you can also follow us on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Tonight, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, good evening.
Good evening, Webo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the listening and the viewing audiences, and with a special good evening to my husband there in the UK.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webo, and good evening to my fellow panelists, Dr. Bartlett. Let me say a very special good evening to all those who are listening and viewing to us at this time. Let me also say a very special good evening to our dear friend, Mr. Hobson. I checked on him recently, and he's doing pretty well. He really missed being here with us. I want to say congratulations, Weber, to all those who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversaries, or some accomplishment in their life. And I want to also say special congratulations to all of our Independence awardees. I believe that they would have equipped themselves well enough to contribute to the society and thus was so recognized. So I want to say congratulations to all of them. Well, but I want to use this opportunity to offer my condolences to all those families who are in mourning here in the Federation. The loss of a loved one, a friend, a colleague. I believe that even in these difficult times and frustrating times, many persons can't really get to attend the homegoing service of their loved ones, and I know at times it's frustrating. So I really want to use this opportunity to offer my condolences to all those who are in mourning tonight. To those who are sick in our various hospitals here in St. Kitts and Nevis, I hope that soon that they will be up and about with the assistance of the doctors and nurses, and certainly with the divine intervention of our Creator God. Well, good evening. It's indeed a pleasure to be here once again.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, Dr. Patricia Bartlett. Your phone calls a little later on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Just a note there on Ted, Dr. Bartlett had referenced him, and I just wanted to say that Dr. Bartlett also, a lot of folks will keep asking me, about him, not only his well-being, but express how they miss his contribution here on, the talk show. And just to let them know that, as you indicated, Ted misses the thing here as well. But everybody knows that for now, COVID-19 rules, right? So we just got to be, if we're patient, maybe it will work out. I just wanted to mention that footnote. Okay, anything, let me go to the panel first and see what they have.
Well, just two highlights I wanted to bring to the attention of, maybe not necessarily to bring to the attention of, because by now everyone probably in Nevis, in particular St. Kitts Nevis, probably would have known that the NRP held their convention was it 2 Sundays ago? This 13th was 2 Sundays ago, was it? Okay. And Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, she emerged as the leader for that party. And I would just like to take this opportunity to just extend heartiest congratulations to Dr. Daniel Hodge as the first woman leader of a major political party in the Federation. I've heard people saying things that she was the first leader of a party, but I'm not so sure. Didn't they have a party with Myrna Walvin?
Oh, yes. The thing about that, I find, Dr. Bartlett, that our people, when they are making references, they make reference to now. Yeah. They care not to do any research or anything. They make reference to their knowledge only and make sweeping statements in reference to that. Now, people might think, I'm being harsh or anything, but that's not the right thing to do in terms of making pronouncement of historical occasions, right? I have a quotation which sometimes I say, a lot of times some of us want to write history the way we like it to be read, but history happens. So I hear that. I'm not just specifically talking about this particular thing, but I always wanted to highlight that, where you hear people always say that's the first ever, when it happened maybe 5 or 6 times before. So depending on what we're doing, it might help if we would do the necessary research or qualify it as we speak. And it is interesting. Naya, for instance, last week, Dr. Bartlett gave a great insight to the history of the Nevis Reformation Party and pointed out that our Ted and his dad, Ron Liebert, when the NRP, which I'm not sure about Ted, but Ron Liebert was an integral part of, and when the NRP under Dr. Daniel decided to join with PAM in protest, they went and formed a party called the PDP. And it was enlightening to me. Well, I sort of knew a little about it, but it was refreshing to hear that as well. And I know a lot of people were not aware of that. Brian, you're kind of young. Did you know?
I know that Naya's dad was around politics before, because his dad and my dad were very close. And as a little boy, I used to mix and mingle between these elderly folks, and they used to have some conversation that was way above my my level of understanding. But I know he also had this blocks making plant right where Bargain House was.
Right. But did you know about the party, the amalgamation with the alignment with Ted and this party called the PDP?
No, that piece of information I was not aware of, but I know that Naya dad was integral in part of the NRP setup. Okay,
sorry, Dr. Bartlett, go ahead.
Yes, but that is not to detract from the accomplishment of Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge. I just said that, just like you said, just to get the record straight and just to give kudos to. But it still stands though that this is the first woman leader of a major. And I think maybe that is a qualifier, the major political, established political party. I've been corrected by the politician.
I like that one.
Well, okay, I'll go with what you like. So again, I would like to say kudos to Dr. Daniel Hodge. I wish you all the best on this journey that you have embarked on. Of course, I've always been one to be here, encouraging women and promoting women, and I feel proud, that someone at least has stepped forward and we're trending now in the right direction as far as I'm concerned. Adding to that, though, on a sad note, though, the passing of Supreme Court Justice in the U.S., Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I haven't been following her for a long time in a deep way, but just, I have been keeping track sometimes of some of the statements that she would make. I can't say that I know all of the accomplishments that she would have during her life here, but I know that she has done quite a bit for in terms of promoting women. And some of the quotes, just incidentally, for Christmas, a nephew of mine in the U.S., he sent me a framed quote of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which said that women belong in all places where decisions are being made. And if I could if you would allow me, Rebo, there's another quote that I wanted to share with the general public that I think kind of stuck with me, and I'm just stumbling on this one after doing some further reading about her life and her contribution to the U.S. in particular and women, And this is what the quote says: "If you want to be a true professional, you will do something outside yourself, something to repair tears in your community, something to make life a little better for people less fortunate than you. That's what I think a meaningful life is, living not for oneself, but for one's community." And, it really resonated with me, because I think that should be what service is all about. People should not be consumed, with just providing for themselves without any regards for, the general population. And that kind of resonated with me. So that's one of her quotes that I think I would hold close to me going forward. So those were the two things that I really wanted to highlight.
Before we go over, Dr. Bartlett, we touched on it a little bit, and the local segment, the part with the Nevis Reformation Party, and also we noted that the executive committee that they have is, somebody said maybe something like 80% women, which was also very interesting, and the further discussion as to what quota or what percentage they may well have in terms of candidates in the next local election. So that is, something very interesting to watch going forward. But here's the question that I asked, just around the table the last time. Should and must the Nevis Reformation Party change their strategy and or philosophy going forward? They've changed the executive, they've brought in, if you will, new blood. What of the philosophy and strategy?
Well, I don't know specifically what they would have shared with the public as it relates to the, how they're going to go forward. So I don't want to be presumptuous to say that I know, what they,
No, when I asked the question, I wasn't asking you to go inside their private books and heads. I was just asking you for just an overall comment, just if you want, if you will. For instance, sometimes you might say, well, okay, the Republican Party in the United States, I think in going forward, they'll have to try and get in the black vote, make an appeal or be open to black persons and encourage them to join their party, etc., so they can be more diverse. That's the sort of thing I was talking about.
Okay, no. When you spoke about the philosophy, well, that kind of, have to have conversations with them to find out exactly where they are with that. But as it relates to, generally speaking, as it relates to their strategy, I think they're off to a good start in terms of starting with women, the inclusion of women. And that's not necessarily to say that all women are now going to follow. But I think, as a woman myself, when I see moves like that, I think that this is a progressive party. I think that this is a party that wants to make a difference, because for too long we have been just swapping out from one party to the next. And I remember in the last election, one guy would have said to me, I said, well, what are my choices? I mean, I just moved from one back to the next. And he said, well, you keep going from one back to the other until you get it right. And I'm like, well, if these are flawed candidates to begin with, why should I think, unless they have some, major conversion, like from Paul to Saul, from Saul to Paul kind of conversion, why should I expect any better? And because I could not satisfy myself that I was going to get better, for me it didn't make any sense for me to even engage. So I sat out last election because I didn't see that I had that kind of option that was going to be satisfying to me, and what I would like to see in Nevis. Well, St. Kitts Nevis, because it was a federal election at the time. So having taken that first step in terms of widening the umbrella and including women now, and we know that women are agents of change, we know that women are progressive in the way they think, and they're not necessarily narcissistic and egotistical, compared to men. And they focus, most times you find women in community groups, and those groups work well. And, they're oriented as it relates to looking out for the community. And if they were to have an ideology, because like in the United States, like you said, you have the liberals on the one side, you have the conservatives on the other side, and you do have, from further readings, I would have come across the fact that you do, even in the United States, have a group that they call the communitarians, because their philosophy and their ideology is focusing on the development of the community, and individuals within the groups within the community, as opposed to the individualistic kind of approach to what we have been seeing in the capitalist type society. So, like I said, that is a good start, having Women Day as an inclusion. I think the fact that they would have dispensed with a lot of the baggage that they would have had as it related to some of the scandals that we would have had, associated with that party, I think that they have now been able to shed that. And I think moving forward, it's for them now to define what the goals are going to be, the short-term goals as well as long-term goals. Because most people have been saying, and if you're true to understanding what's going on around here right now, not many people are pleased with the way things are going. I mean, I, for one, I would have been one of those people who expected better from the present administration. And I've been totally dissatisfied with what I've gotten. And I don't think that I've gotten the kind of representation that I anticipated I would get. So I'm glad that now that there are better options. And so I'm looking forward really to the next elections around here. And I think that they probably should be able to do better.
Yes, Webo, I want to join with Dr. Bartlett and congratulate Dr. Hodge on her becoming the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party. It is no secret that the Nevis Reformation Party have had a rich history here on the island of Nevis and were one of the partners as it regards to the architect of our independence. I welcome her to the political arena, and I certainly I've known her, I've worked with her in the past, and I know her, and I just hope that, as Dr. Bartlett said, now that they would have shed the baggage that they have carried for some time, that we can see and anticipate what exactly the Nevis Reformation Party will offer to the people of Nevis. I believed, Webo, that in the present circumstance that we now have on the island of Nevis, as it regards to the COVID situation, I think that some may argue whether the present administration would have done a good job, a bad job, a reasonable job, a fair job. That is for the general public to analyze and to come up with their own conclusion. But I believe, Webo, that in these difficult times we have tried to ensure that we, in the first instance, try and keep the people of Nevis safe, one, and try and offer a good enough platform that once this present situation is over, then we can move forward. So I want to congratulate Dr. Hodge and certainly wishes her all the best in her political endeavors. Dr. Bartlett also spoke about I call her and this might be a grammatically incorrect, the little giant, Judge Ginsburg. And I believe, Webo, that her passing is changing, in my mind, the dynamics of the presidential election in the US. It now put front and center what the Supreme Court of the US would look like in the next 10, 15, 20 years. If the present president is allowed to elect or have seated on the High Court a replacement for the judge. And the argument is that some of the gains that have been made in the US based on the appointment of the next judge can be rolled back. And it is in my mind a terrifying situation there as to who that next judge will be. But the United States will work itself out. But I just want to record, as Dr. Bartlett did, my congratulations and the endless possibilities of what can happen in the US as it regards to the appointment of a new judge.
I find it very interesting. And part of the debate is now requesting or looking at the way the Supreme Court and the other courts are now functioning. Because it used to be that it appeared that judges were impartial.
Well,
right? It used to be. Whether it was that way or it was just to some of us perceived that way. But now it looks clear-cut. For instance, in a number of cases that the current president had in the court. And when he lost, he got angry because he said, I put the judge there. So how could they rule against me? And so that is a very dangerous thing going forward. That's the angle, that I'm very concerned about. Now, the last couple of judgments that came out from the Supreme Court did not really go according to who appointed the judges. So that's some hope. That's some hope. But I'm a little nervous about that aspect of it. So that people look seemingly now at once a Republican president was the one who got them on the Supreme Court, and a case gets before them, they must rule thus and not according to the law. So that's the thing that I'm watching.
Well, I agree with you. I think that the Supreme Court in recent times would have gave some judgment that were, in my mind, unique in the sense that and the president that we now have in the White House is one who is seeking to roll back a lot of these judgment and position that the Supreme Court would have taken. Case in point, Obamacare, the abortion rights and all of that. And I think that he is seeking to position on the Supreme Court a judge who may not share the views of those particular ruling, and if those cases come before the Supreme Court again, that they could be overturned. As I said, it's a troubling trend, but you are absolutely correct that even though the president may appoint a particular judge, they may not get the result that they anticipate when it comes before them.
And even the Attorney General Barr.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that people who are very educated pull wool or con people who they think are not so educated. But the law is as simple as what is fair and right and wrong. And if you want a good sense and a good education in law, read the Bible.
Absolutely.
Read the Bible. And so you don't have to have gone to Harvard or Oxford and so on and so forth to reasonably know what is fair, what is right and what is wrong, because it came from there. And when you see sometimes the behavior of Barr and you watch the whole debacle with the case, the impeachment and the Russian thing and so on and so forth, you can easily discern what's fair and so on. But it is about power and the usage or the misusage of it.
Yeah, Rebo, the thing is, these are some unprecedented times in the U.S. We do have an unorthodox president, and he has surrounded himself with people who are not necessarily systems type people. Not people, who are career civil servants and all that. Those people, he has silenced those people. So he has just done everything differently. As it relates to the Supreme Court, though, that has always, in America, that has always seemed to have been a traditional issue that I don't think that other people necessarily have. Because you expect, like you said, judges to rule fairly on the law. But as it relates to moral issues, and I think that is what has been, called upon the Supreme Court as it relates to, some of these cases that, I don't think that the sky is going to fall because you have necessarily a conservative, set of, judges. Because they've had a majority for a while now, so it tilts, and you expect them to be conservative for quite a long time. What they're seeking for now is an overwhelming majority, like a super majority. And that in itself, I think, does not necessarily reflect the ethos of what the American, spirit is, because you expect in a system like the American system that it would always be fair. You would have a balanced approach to things, So equally, if you have 5 on one side, I think that the system should have been, 5 on one side, you have 4 on the other side, or 5 on, whatever it is, or just one person to really make a difference, and that person is a person of conscience. And occasionally you would have that, you'd have a split either way. But now that they're seeking for a super majority, but of course, I don't think, maybe at this point in time, the Democrats maybe not have anything in their toolbox with which to respond, but going forward, apparently there are other options that they can seek to address this imbalance, as it would seem. Because even though the Senate is claiming that they have a majority, and they're moving on the majority, they have taken advantage of the majority that they have to influence the court, the truth of the matter is that they don't necessarily reflect the majority, or they don't necessarily represent the majority of Americans, because they do have, even though they have a majority Senate being Republican, the population, as it relates to the electorate, you have a majority Democrat. So, at some point, I think one thing I know that they probably would do, they would seek to balance the scales. Because if maybe, and it appears that maybe Democrats are not as aggressive as they could be, at least some people, especially the extreme left, have been, touting that, they're not strong enough, to go with the Republicans. But I think that they could position themselves to remedy this situation, at least to find some balance to it.
What is concerning is not so much that one side gets a majority or super majority. What is concerning to me is how they go about it. For instance, the debate that they have right now as to whether or not you should confirm the judge before the election. If you were following it in 2016,
Same thing they did about
you had a situation where a judge died, 8 months out, and they were all over the place, and they stamped their foot up and down, and 8 months, that's too close to an election. Okay, so they got you with it.
But that is politics.
That's not politics in my view, though. That's gangsterism.
But that is politics.
Gangsterism?
No.
No, what I'm saying...
It is not against the law.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, they argued that they ought to, on principle and morals and so on and so forth, allow the people, because you're 8 months from an election, and you should therefore allow the people to decide.
Yes.
So you got your way, and you got the judge. Now, by the same rationale, right, you now go and you say, oh no, well, I changed my mind.
Yes.
So my point that I was making is not so much whether the one side is getting the majority or the super majority, is the gangsterism they use to get there.
Well, that is your categorization of it, or you think that it is in that level of gangsterism, but the fact is it is not an illegal move that they're making, and that is how politicians, that is how they operate. It seems they would say something today, and then tomorrow they would flip. Look how many people who are now serving with Trump, who would have said some of the worst things that you could, say about the president, and then now, serving with.
So it happens. So my point is,
that's fair.
That is what is concerning to me, because you can't take a person basically by their word. So when you have these people who operate that way, right? So they come this week and they said to you, on principle, we are not going to do this. And then next week they just change it and you move along with that. That is what is concerning to me.
And rightly so. I thought, because I wouldn't operate like that myself, but I've seen it happen. And sometimes when we try to argue principle, we don't get very far with it, because some people say, well, it is not illegal. And even around here, people make some maneuvers sometimes, which, we tend to think, those of us who think that we have consciences, that we would squeal and we would say, oh, that should not happen, because we're using our moral base to judge these people. And they would say to you, well, there's nothing illegal about it. And I've heard that argument right here as it relates to some, issues that come up. Or it's not illegal. It's like, okay, but it's not moral. At least I don't think it is right, But that is from a moral standpoint. Not everybody based their doings on morals all the time. And like I said, it seems, and it should be concerning to all of us, that people could just flip like that. But I maybe because I'm a little bit cynical, I just shrug my shoulder and say, well, it is politics. That's what it is. Because at the end of the day, they're doing something that is legal.
A classic local example that we had, which I find was very intriguing, the last election coming into it, if you go back to tapes, to all the talk shows and everything, one of the biggest issues was the overseas vote. And people should not come in here, and the people overseas are the one who decided, or who normally decide, who should run the place. And I didn't think, that was correct. However, I said when it became apparent that we may well have an election without the overseas vote, and in a little discussion I said, we soon will find out who can win and who can't win without the overseas vote. And I'm not sure, I wouldn't say it hasn't happened, I'm not sure if I have heard much debate since about the overseas vote. Because as far as I know, some of the same people who they were saying cannot win without the overseas vote. Not only one, but one handsomely.
But I don't know how relevant that is to the point that we were making as it relates to, things were more, right or wrong.
No, well, I'll tell you how relevant it is. Because people use their tactics and their strategies. You remember when they took people's name off the list? One of the reasons, the main reason why they took it off is because they figure, well, if these people are here and you can take those off, then it will work out in a certain way such that other people would win. And that is the gangsterism that I was speaking about as an example. So that's the relevance, Mr. Brand.
My good friend Dr. Bartlett said that the strategy that is now being exhibited by the Republicans is politics, or something to that effect. I think that is why I believe that politicians often branded as, you use a word there, Weber, gangsterism and cooks and so on and so forth. It is, Weber, at times when a particular position is convenient as a means to an end. And when you analyze the situation and you stack everything up against each other, you take a certain position. And tomorrow morning you wake up and the situation is slightly different. And then the situation warrants the same individuals who took a position on the same issue some time ago now have to take a position. And we call it gangsterism, we call it politics, but I think it's hypocrisy. Plain and simple. I believe, Weber, that if something is wrong Saturday morning, the same thing should be wrong Sunday morning.
If everything else remains the same.
Whether everything else remains the same or not. If something is wrong Saturday morning, the same thing should be wrong Sunday morning.
No, not if you change the rules.
No.
I put it to you. I will put a point to you, right? And bring something with you, and then you will come on my side.
Well, let me hear you, Weber.
1 month ago, it was right or okay to turn left on the road that goes into from the Esdales,
yes,
on Pump Road.
Yes.
Now, if you turn left, because it was right. Now if you turn left, you're given a ticket.
Yes.
Because it's not wrong.
Right, once you change the rules.
So that's why I said, given that the other factors remain the same. So, since you shut down my point, explain that to me.
Okay, given the factors are the same?
Yeah.
Well, if the factors are the same, Saturday morning.
Meaning the roads are the same?
Yes, the roads are the same. Let's put that in context. The roads are the same.
Yes.
But as Dr. Bartley said, if you change the rules,
yes, something has changed.
Something has changed.
And so therefore that is what make it right or wrong.
But my argument is what has changed from 2016 to 2020
right.
on the same issue.
Right, but what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying, Mr. Brand. You had to qualify it. Anyway, go ahead.
No, my argument is, Webo, that the position that the Republicans took in 2016 and their argument was that 8 months was too close to an election. Today, in 2020, it is not even 8 months. It is what? 40, how much days?
36.
30 how much?
Less than 40.
Less than 40 days before an election.
Yes.
And you have the same circumstances where
yes.
a seat on the Supreme Court was vacated. So why was it wrong that Obama must not be allowed to elect a nominee for the Supreme Court, but it is right now in 2020 under the same circumstances with less time?
Right. So you're agreeing with me. That's clear gangsterism, and we have the same thing here, and that's why remember 2015 when we had to go up to the Privy Council.
Yes.
Gangsterism, the same sort of tricks and all sort of things were being done. People say that people are very smart. That's not smartness. Right? And I'm always, cautious. The way I'm always worried the way I see people in our own local situations manipulate the list, the electoral list and stuff like that so that they can win. I remember when every year, and it seems as if people are still talking about electoral reform. And people do that because they think they should change it so it is perceived that they can get an advantage somehow. And that is basically what is happening. And this, I think, as I said, if we come down and we have the rules, and it is a dangerous thing, I believe, when the people who make the rules stand to benefit from it. And I think that is one of the things that to me is a little dangerous. In the United States, for instance, if they're going to raise the president's salary, like for this election coming up, right? When they raise it, they will say for the next, right? So that you don't stand to benefit directly, and so on. So these are the things. And I find that if you begin to do things like those, perhaps you might get a more fairer balance.
Yeah, but once the thing is, once you work within the rules, I don't have any issue with that, seriously. Once rules are established, you and I accept that these are the rules by which we would be governed, and we act accordingly. You've made reference, and you keep making reference to the kind of shenanigans that would go on related to the electoral lists, and when people do things like that, we need to call them out on these things. And I remember, coming on this same radio station and making a statement because I thought that what was being done was wrong. As it relates to the overseas vote, though, that is something different. I personally, how I feel about that. Not to alienate anybody, who might be in the diaspora, but that is, just my personal feeling about, who should be able to participate, and the time frame in which they should be able to do so. This is not to exclude these people indefinitely. It's just that during the period of time when they're not resident here, I don't think that they should participate here. However, when people are going to manipulate lists, that is where I would, and we had a situation where people were coming from other constituencies, crossing borders and, doing things like that. Those things ought not to happen. And as a people, we're not supposed to sit and let that happen. And I think that I personally, and this is something I've had on my status, my Facebook page I hardly ever use it, but that is something I've had on my status for the longest while. I believe in fairness, I believe in integrity, and I believe in equality. And whenever I see something, and I can't be associated with a group that goes, contrary to what the established rules are, and maybe that is why I have been such an independent for such a long time. But people ought to be able to see things that are wrong and call out these things when they're wrong. Because if they're wrong on Saturday morning, like Mr. Brand said, on Sunday morning they shouldn't be right unless the rules change. And the rules, once the rules change, they're going to change for everybody.
Let me get a break. This is Thought That Get Results. Dr. Patricia Bartlett, the Honorable Spencer Brand. We'll be back after these.
Builders Paradise is doing it again by offering a blowout sale on granite, cheaper than tiles and Formica on your counter. The man has gone crazy again. A full slab of granite is on sale for as little as $599.99. Yes! Builders Paradise also offers a special delivery for your granite. So make use of this golden opportunity while stocks last. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site, St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938 so they can help you complete your home. Builders Paradise, where your island dreams come true.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
860 AM, the Powerhouse.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results with Dr. Patricia Bartlett and the Honorable Spencer Brand. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. The other thing I'd like to briefly look at, we just finished some independence celebrations. I think last week we touched on a little area. I asked a question whether or not what were person's thoughts concerning not structural and material development of the nation, but the human resource development, how resilient we are as a people. For instance, I use the example with 9/11 and New York and by extension the United States took a great hit, a big hit, but they put their shoulders to the wheel and they will tell you New Yorkers are tough people. They know how to. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. How do we fit in? Are we a resilient people? Are we a people who get along with each other? Can we build back when we lose some material stuff? Brian?
Well, I think that we have developed quite a bit of resilience in our system, not only in the human capital but also in infrastructural development. I believe that we continue to see our people being exposed to training and education, not only here in the Federation but abroad. We continue to see resilience in our infrastructure. Water, we have significantly built in a lot of resilience in the system with the CDB project, and we continue to do that. I think if you look at some of the work that we have seen in Netlec, we continue to see expansion in agriculture. But I think one of the areas, Weber, that is of great concern to me is, in my mind, the people-to-people relation. I believe that our society is becoming and have become a coarser society. I am not so certain if there is that care that we once had, or if it's as genuine as it used to be. I think that a lot of people now have, in my mind, a lot more distraction, seeking after certain things, and I believe that our people-to-people relation, I feel that there need to be some uptake in that. There need to be some improvement in that. I think that our people and our society, for some reason, we seem to be snapping a lot more at each other. There seem to be that coarsening as it regards to how we relate to each other. That is an area that is of great concern to me.
It's a dangerous thing, right?
It is a very, very dangerous thing.
Because I would interject here the example of when we speak of Christianity and we speak of the church. And then you get into the debate that the church is not so much the building,
right,
but the people. And that's what makes the church. So if the building goes down tomorrow, the church still remains solid.
Right.
So in that sort of vein.
Yeah. So that is for me one of my greatest concern as I look around and I see what is happening in our community. And I think that if we are all honest about it, then we will realize that we have some work to do in that area. I believe that you spoke about resilience as well. I believe that our education system is holding its own, and I know at this time they are going through some testing time. Our healthcare system is also going through some testing time. But like I said, Webo, one of the greatest concern for me is how we relate to each other, and that for me is adding some additional gray hairs.
Dr. Bartlett, you want to comment?
Well, I think I may have answered a similar version of the same question when I would have been here.
Right.
But just to maybe not, I'm not picking on you, Mr. Brand, but just because you highlighted these areas, you talk about the expansion in agriculture. I personally have not seen it. I have not felt it. As you know, I used to work in agriculture. I don't think that we have right now a vision going forward. I'm hoping that we would at some point understand how important agriculture is, to the development of any country. The ability to feed yourself is not just something that you just talk about. That is something that you're going to have to deliver on. And that you measure that. It's not difficult to come by the data. You measure it, and if you were to look at the data, definitely it's not going to show you that we've had an increase in agricultural production. So we have a lot of work to do in that, and for a long time now, I don't think that enough has been, focus has been put on agriculture. It's just a lot of talk. One of the biggest things that we do, or that I've seen happening in agriculture the past couple of years, has just been an agricultural show. It has been a show. And agriculture is not supposed to be a showpiece. We have to deliver. We have to be a productive unit, and that is I think has much room for improvement. You talk about the water. It's still unfortunate that we have bigger pipes, yes, but we're not getting any more water. I don't know that we're getting any more water. We still have issues, whenever it gets dry, we don't have water in the pipes. But like you say, you have bigger pipes. That for me, is not enough. So I think that there's some scope for us to, improve on water as well. We have most of the structural elements in place that would make it for a good society, for a strong society, but we just have to go back to do those things that we used to do that made us, strong and gave us, the impetus to move forward off of the strong base that we had created. And what I think we have to do a lot as it relates to relationships. We have to go back to strengthening the family. I've said that time and time again, and I would not get weary of saying it until we start doing things that at least would convince me that we are serious about that. This notion that everybody should have their own house, I don't know that, where we're going with that. That is just in itself breaking up the families, and this notion that you should take somebody from one constituency and put them in another one, transpose them from one place to the next, leaving the family behind, the support structure behind, does not bode well for us. And we have to go back to people, empowering people where they are. Wherever I'm planted, there is where I want to be watered, there is where I want to be grown. And this thing about moving people, transplanting people, and they don't have the kind of structural element, support around them is so unfair, and we see that happening. And it's, for me, I'm cynical to the extent that I think that it is done mainly for the purpose of strengthening, politicians.
Okay, Dr. Bartlett, let me just interrupt you and take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Sorry about that.
Yes. Good evening. I quite agree with Dr. Bartlett with what he's saying. Everything that she's saying right now, I agree with her. with the agriculture and the family business, I support her with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Bartlett, go ahead.
Then the other issue that I would like to add to what I would have said previously would have been universal health. We keep hearing about universal health care coverage for everyone, and we're not seeing that in a good, the steps that I'm seeing, they're not meaningful steps. I can't applaud the steps that I'm seeing. We're still not close enough to that. I think we need to sit down as a government. I mean, I'm not part of the government, obviously. They don't even want to work for you. But, I think that we need some regrouping. This thing about going over to St. Kitts to work when work is supposed to be done in Nevis, I don't understand that too much either. But if there's some kind of collaboration that, we can get on the universal health issue, then we need to work fast on that, because COVID has been a challenge for all of us. And God forbid that, we should really get any serious cases here.
Okay.
Because I know I can't afford to pay for the care.
Because I'm running out of time, let me just quickly, maybe it's a light moment, but so Dr. Bartlett just said you have bigger pipe, yes, but the same volume of water.
well, you're right, it's a light moment, but I think you started by asking the question, are we a bit more resilient?
Yes.
If in case Dr. Bartlett is not aware, we are embarking on a project there in the Hamilton area where we are installing a water filtration system that will add. We have also constructed a 500,000 gallon water tank there in the Hamilton area, and that will add some additional 500 plus thousand gallons of water in the system once that system is completed. So yes, you're right, we have bigger pipes and we do have additional water. I am not certain, Dr. Bartlett, if you say you haven't seen agriculture. I'm not certain if you are not, probably you're not paying attention.
Well, here's a question I want to put quick.
Yeah.
How is our debating? In other words, Dr. Bartlett, the Minister of Agriculture, your government and the Premier argue that you got in terms of agriculture great doing. Dr. Bartlett said I didn't see it.
Well,
so let me take this. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air.
Good night.
Yes, I'm getting the feeling that you have a bad connection
or something. Yeah.
Hello. Okay, could you try again? Okay, go ahead.
Before Brad answers, can I just interject something?
Quickly, yeah.
When we debate, we must have a basis on which we're going to debate. If it is that we're going to use production, let us use the data that comes out of that, because that is what ultimately we can objectively compare. You can't just be talking.
You are absolutely correct, Dr. Bartlett, that we must use the data, and you are indicating that you have not seen any expansion of agriculture, and you have made that statement without any data as well. And I am putting it to you that the data is indicating that there has been expansion in agriculture.
Well, you're going to have to share that data.
I would bring the data and I would share it. I would bring it and I will share it with you.
Because I'm not impressed. I've been there.
I know you've been there. I know you've been there.
And I've seen what is available, what data is available, and trust me, I'm not impressed, and I don't think you'll be able to impress anybody with what you're saying. But if it is that you're going to say, and sometimes people have some way of double counting things, well, just bring the data and let us have a discussion.
We will have a discussion with the data.
Good.
Okay. So the point is, though, that you have a filtration system you say you're going to be putting in?
Yes.
And you do have bigger pipes? And you have bigger tanks?
Yes,
but no, this is serious. Right, yeah, and so I'm asking the last part of the question. And you do have water to fill it?
Absolutely.
So there you go. So that's the point I was making.
Let me tell you where the water is coming from, Webo.
Yes.
I think that the general public would recall that we have had on the island of Nevis a company named Bede, and they have dug a number of wells around the island of Nevis. One of those wells was dug in the Hamilton area, and it would have found to have contained some chemical properties that needed treatment. The well was sat there for over 10 years, actually, and the data shows that it was one of the highest yielding well that was around. And we took a decision, Webo, that it does make much sense to have this volume of water sitting there when we have the technology to treat the water.
Okay, I think the person is back. Let's give them the opportunity. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, good night.
You're on the air. Could you go ahead?
Yeah, okay. As far as this, right, this girl where they bring in Daniel or whoever it is. This is just, she's just like Donald Trump. So, I'm not sincere. I'm not sincere guy, right? And I got a strong feeling that Donald Trump will win Daniel, you know?
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Mr. Brand.
As I was saying, Webo, that the well was there sitting down for over 10 years, and we recognized that it was a very high yielding well. And we took the decision to get the necessary equipment to treat that water and put it into the system. We have already constructed the water tank that would hold some 500,000+ gallon. We are also in the process of doing some repair to the old stone tank there at the Hamilton water site. So the idea is, Webo, that we will be able to add additional water into the system along with the bigger pipes.
Well, I just thought that maybe you just started off by saying that BEAD was, in the process of, well, they should have been digging some wells, and I don't know if I'm satisfied. That
No. Let me make it clear. Let me make it clear. I said that BEAD would have dug a number of wells throughout Nevis. One of the wells that they would have dug was a well in the Hamilton area, and they would have discovered that well that they dug contained some chemical properties that they just abandoned the well. When I became the minister with responsibility for water, the information that I saw indicated that well that was sitting there for over 10 years was one of the highest yielding well on the island of Nevis.
Yes, that part I got, if I can cut you.
Right, and we took the decision that with the necessary technology that we have available to us, we can treat that water and put it into the system.
Yes, I got that. But wasn't BEAD responsible for some additional wells for us to be getting water elsewhere other than the one that would have been dug more than 10 years ago?
Yes, BEAD would have.
What is the status as it relates to that?
Those wells are still online today. Those are still producing today.
So the additional waters that we were supposed to be getting from BEAD in the latter part of the contract that they had with us, we are satisfied that we got enough out of BEAD. I think at some point we had terminated the relationship.
Yes, we have terminated the second contract. There were two contracts. One that they would have fulfilled. That was a 10-year contract. The second one, because of some issues and so on, we ended up terminating that contract, and we are going to move on.
Okay, I just thought that is the new water I was thinking, that we were exploring.
No.
So we would have discontinued the relationship with BEAD, but we have not yet found a replacement. A company that will continue the work.
We have a proposal from another company, and at the moment we are sorting out our financing to move that project forward.
Okay.
Did Mr. Brand make his case that he has bigger pipes, and did he make his case he has water to put in it?
Well, potentially there's water to be put in it. That's what I understand. The quality of the
so
water is
but
what
see,
he's working on.
that's my point. That's what a good debate is all about, right?
Yes.
You accuse him of having bigger pipes, and he stood up and he said, here's where the water coming from. So water, we have more water.
But he has been
too.
saying that for quite a while, though.
Well, we'll see.
But in the meantime, we have bigger pipes.
Well,
usually, if you have bigger pipes on the same water, the pressure goes down. But I am not complaining.
we might end up. Maybe I would say, like with the interview with Lindsey Graham, tape it, hold the tape, and then yes. Go
Dr.
ahead,
Bassett
Mr. Brand.
indicated that I have been saying this for a while, and in some aspects she is correct. The difficulty that we have had, because our borders have been closed since March. The technicians who were to come on island and complete this project have not been able to come because of that reason. We have been trying to work our way around that, and that is where the position is.
So, Mr. Brand, the Honorable Spencer Brand, you have the last word. Thank you very much. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice